Just wait till 7 o'clock. Do you want to say sure? Hi, everybody. My name is Drew Young, and I've been asked to give the devotional for tonight. I just wanted to start off by introducing you to my family. This is my wife, Sabrina, and my daughter, Emerson. And Emerson is getting ready to go to bed, so I had to introduce them first. But we're going to go ahead and get started here in about 30 seconds. And if you happen to be joining us live, I'd love it if you commented where you're joining from, whether it's the United States or Canada or, somewhere in Europe, Africa, Asia, South America. I'd love to get to know you a little bit better as we go ahead and get started. So, like I said, my name is Drew Young, and the title of this devotional is You Are Enough. And that's kind of my philosophy of life. And that's what I want all of you to go away with as you watch this devotional, whether it's recorded or live. I want you all to know that you are enough, you matter, you have a mission on this earth to discover and fulfill, and it's so much grander and it's so much greater than anything that you've probably ever thought of, ever anticipated. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm probably going to go around, half an hour, just because, I know a lot of people have different things going on and, different places to be and people to see. And so I want to go half an hour here and basically just tell you my story, a little bit of my background. I'm going to get into some things that are quite vulnerable, about some experiences that I've had in my life, and also the lessons that I've learned from them. So I hope that you'll be able to feel the spirit of this message. I hope you'll be able to feel that I care about you, that, like I said, you are enough and that you matter. And so I'm 24 years old. I live in Salt Lake City with my wife, Sabrina, and my daughter, Emerson. You probably saw them at the beginning of this recording. And I haven't lived in Utah my whole life. I actually was born in Utah, but I moved to Connecticut at the age of 3 because my dad got a new job. So we moved our family out to Connecticut, and I grew up there until I was 12 years old. So that was a big part of my childhood. I still consider the East Coast to be home to me, and it's definitely a place that I want to end up back in Connecticut or North Carolina or, Boston, Massachusetts, somewhere like that one day as my career progresses and as our family grows. And so when I was 12 years old, my dad got a different job and moved us back to Utah. And that's kind of where my story begins. Growing up, I had a lot of separation anxiety, which for anyone who doesn't really know what that is, it's basically where I couldn't leave the house for long periods of time without getting really homesick. And typically it was, homesick for my mom. I wanted to be with my mom. I didn't know if she was safe. I didn't know what she was doing. And so it manifested itself through a lot of fear and panic. And so I had a hard time going to school. I had a hard time going to things, like church and scout camp, things like that. And it just made, building relationships really difficult for me. And it's something that I struggled with in preschool, and then I struggled with it in elementary school. And then I kind of got over it for a couple of years, didn't have any issues. And then when my family moved back to Utah when I was 12, it started up again. And unfortunately, this was a really difficult time for me because not only was I trying to become acclimated to a new environment, but I was trying to make new friends. I was trying to go to a new school, new church, all these different things. And my separation anxiety made it really hard for me to do that, not only because it's misunderstood by a lot of people, not only leaders and adults, but obviously a lot of kids who've never gone through it, just kind of see you as weak or sensitive or really nervous or a baby. And so I was treated very poorly by the kids in my neighborhood. I was bullied a lot from the age of 12 to 15. And it made it really difficult for me to transition from Connecticut, where I grew up and had a lot of friends, to Utah, where I didn't have any friends and was treated like I was less than. And I had glasses growing up, and I wasn't the skinniest kid, and so a lot of the kids in my neighborhood would tease me. They'd call me names like retard and four eyes and stupid idiot, and they'd push me up against the fence and they'd kick me and they'd throw me to the ground, and they'd hit me and they'd do all these things, and I hated going out into the neighborhood. I hated going to church. I hated doing all the things that 12, 13, 14-year-olds are supposed to love doing, because the kids that I was surrounded by weren't very kind to me. And incidentally, all of this led to me and my parents deciding to homeschool me 7th through ninth grade, which is, the typical ages that you attend junior high, middle school. And those are usually ages as well where you develop a lot of friendships that you carry on with throughout your life, and you do a lot of different things to kind of build yourself up, build your name, build your reputation, before you go to high school and all this stuff. And I didn't have those opportunities. And so that added to the intensity of the bullying, and I just didn't like who I was, and I turned to a lot of negative habits to try and numb the pain that the loneliness of the bullies left in me. And obviously, it was only a temporary fix. It would just leave me feeling even more lonely and more isolated. And finally, when I was 15, my parents decided that they would move houses. And so we moved to a different area around Salt Lake City, where I was able to make new friends and be in a different, ward setting. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so we had a different ward that we attended with different neighbors and things like that. And then I went back to school. So 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, I went back to school, and I had a lot of different opportunities to meet kids my age and socialize. And, I loved playing sports, basketball, baseball, football. We did a lot of fun things together. And I still remember to this day, when I was 15 years old and we moved into our new house, I walked upstairs one day after sophomore year in high school, and I walked upstairs to my bathroom, and I looked myself in the mirror and I said, I will try my very best not to be mean to people, because I don't want anyone to ever feel the way that I felt. And that's a pretty big goal to set for yourself, especially, when you're in high school, and a lot of people try to get ahead by, trying to be powerful and trying to one up other people. But it's a mantra that I've tried to live through and with my whole life, to be kind, because I know first and foremost what it's like for people to not be kind, and for people to make you feel like you aren't enough and that you aren't a good person and that you really don't want to live anymore. I know a lot of people that have been bullied for years, and it ended with either them taking their lives or, getting hooked on bad addictions. And unfortunately, they didn't have the opportunities to bounce out of those situations. And so one of my messages tonight is for any of you who are listening to this who are bullied, who are treated unfairly, whether it's by spouse, parent, family members, friends, work associates, church members. I just want you to know that I'm your friend, and you have a lot of friends who are part of this group. You have a lot of friends who love you, who care about you, and the moment that you reach out, people will be there to support you. And having been bullied and gone through those awful experiences, I can say unequivocally 100% that I'm grateful that I know the value of kindness. And so that's my first lesson that I want everyone to learn and take away tonight, is to be kind. You never know what someone's going through. You never know the background of people's lives. We think we know, but we really don't. And so the only way that we can really influence with positivity and influence long lastingly is through kindness, by being a friend, by being someone who compliments, not tears people down, someone who uplifts, someone who sees the good instead of the bad. And we live in a world that it's so easy to be negative. It's so easy to look at what's going wrong instead of what's going right. And it's so easy to blame our circumstances for, you know, the bad things that are happening in our lives. And so I'd invite all of you to be the light in somebody's life today, tomorrow, this week, this month, this year. Obviously, 2020 has been quite a year of surprises and challenges and sadness for a lot of people. And I know that as we come together, as we unify ourselves as, a group of brothers and sisters on this earth, that we can be the difference. We can be the change. And we'll look back on these months and weeks and years, as difficult as they may be, and we'll be grateful that we chose kindness. We'll be grateful that we chose to lift others up instead of tear them down. So that was my experience. After being bullied, I chose to be kind, and of course I haven't been perfect at that. But that's always been something that I've strived for, my ideal. So like I mentioned, as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, something that a lot of men are asked to do when they turn 18 is to serve a mission, which basically, for those who don't know what that is, you receive an assignment to go to a country somewhere in the world to teach the gospel, basically to help people learn more about Jesus Christ, help people learn more about how they can be happier, how they can be healthier, how they can make a positive influence in their community. And so I decided that I wanted to do that. It was something that, I had grown up wanting to do. It was something that was an expectation for me and my family and in my community. And a lot of my friends were doing it, and we were all really excited for each other. And so after graduating senior year of high school, I decided that I wanted to serve a mission. And obviously it's a big step because men are asked to go for a period of 2 years, which is, not a short amount of time. And so as I contemplated going and as I decided to go, I thought that it might be good for me to attend a semester of college away from home at first, just so I could prove to myself that I'd beaten this separation anxiety thing that I've talked about. So I went to a semester of college out of state, and I loved it and had great experiences, didn't have any challenges in terms of anxiety. And then I received a call to serve in the Baltic Mission, which for anyone who is unaware of where that is, it's in Eastern Europe, and I was assigned to speak the language of Estonian, which is like Finnish. It's very different from any other language in the world. It's considered very difficult to learn, and I honestly thought it was in the Mediterranean. I'd never heard of the country ever, and it's right in the middle of Eastern Europe. It's in the summer, the sun doesn't set until, 2, 3 in the morning, and in the winter, you're lucky if the sun sets after 3 p.m. So it's very different. The culture is very different. Beautiful people, beautiful language, but it was something that was going to be new to me. And so I prepared to leave to accomplish, my call to serve, my mission. And I went into what is called the Missionary Training Center, where I was going to be, taught the language. I was going to meet my companions that I'd be serving alongside of, and basically just learn how to teach people, learn how to teach my religion to other people about, Jesus Christ and what he did for us and how we can learn of him and become more like him. And so I was going to be in the Missionary Training Center for 9 weeks. And as I entered the Missionary Training Center, I was there for about a week, and then I started to experience terrible anxiety, unlike anything that I had experienced before in my life. And it was something that was very new to me because it wasn't homesickness. It was more along the lines of I started gaining an unusual amount of weight. I started not sleeping at night. I started to get really bad panic attacks where I get really jittery, where I would have a hard time eating, where I would get up really early in the morning because, like I said, I couldn't sleep. And I would have these emotional breakdowns, 2 or 3 times a day, not because I was homesick, but because I was mentally sick. And I didn't quite understand it at the time, and so I just thought, oh, I'll push through this because that's what you do, you know? And of course, I don't mean that, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But I just thought to myself, well, I've received this assignment. I've been called to serve, and so I'm just going to push through. I'm going to do the best I can, and God will take care of me. I'll be fine. And so a couple more weeks went by, and I started to decline in improvement, and it was really apparent in with my companions and with other members and leaders that I wasn't doing very well, and so I decided to go see a therapist where in the missionary training center where I took an hour every week just to talk about what was going on, and she kind of evaluated me a little bit, and she said, "Oh, you're fine, you're homesick, this will pass in a little bit." And then week 4 and week 5 went. I was going to be there for 9 weeks, and so week 4 and week 5 went, and still wasn't getting any better as I was getting worse and worse. And so I went to see the head doctor there, and he prescribed me on medication. For the first time in my life, I received medication. And he put me on a lot of fast-acting antidepressants that would take effect immediately. And the problem with that is with an antidepressant, you usually want to take it for anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks to start seeing improvement. But because I was on such a short timetable, they wanted me to take these medications really quickly. I ended up trying 3 medications in 5 weeks, which for anyone who's ever dealt with mental illness, whether observing it or experiencing it yourself, that's just unreasonably insane to take 3 medications in 5 weeks because you don't know if it's working or not. And so as you could probably imagine, my emotional skeleton got more and more fractured. I was just losing my sanity, quite frankly. And I started seeing the therapist more and more often. And one week, I think it was about week 6 or 7, she looked at me and she said, "Elder Young," as we're referred to as missionaries, she said, "Elder Young, you're not homesick. You're on the Titanic and you're going down fast." And I'll just pause right here for a moment and just have you think about, regardless of what religion you're a part of, regardless of where you live, your community, regardless of activities that you enjoy, just think of an instance in your life where there was a lot of expectation put upon you, whether it was culturally, within your family, within your community, within your church. Just thinking about a moment where a lot of expectation was put upon you and you were asked to go do something, and other people had done it before you and they did great and they succeeded, and then you were asked to go do something and you fell short. You didn't quite get there. You didn't quite accomplish what was asked of you. And I want you to think about those feelings that you felt. Because as she told me that I was on the Titanic and I was going down fast, it hit me. I'm going to need to go home. Which, as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in missionary service, it's very unheard of a missionary going home. It's very culturally wrong for a missionary to return home early. And, there's various reasons for that, but it was just something that was frowned upon in the society of the church. And I, of course, knew that as my father had served an LDS mission, my brothers had served LDS missions, my friends were serving LDS missions. So I had to really dig deep down inside myself and come to grips with the fact that this could be a reality, that I'd have to go home early and not fulfill what I thought was my mission. So long story short, week 9 came when my companions and the rest of my missionary friends were going to go out into what we call the field, which is the country where we're assigned to serve. And I was called into one of the leadership offices at the Missionary Training Center, and they said, "Elder Young, you are going to be going home." She said, "We need to call your parents, and they need to come pick you up tomorrow evening." because we want you to get better. We want you to get on the right medication. We want you to have the right therapy. And we need you to go home and get better. Otherwise, you can just get more and more sick. And he said, okay, well, we need to call your parents now. He said, do you want to tell your dad or do you want me to tell your dad? And I said, I'll tell him. And the reason why I'm expressing this thought is because all of us have a role model in our lives that we grew up with, whether it's a family member, member in our community, member in our church, that we look up to highly and that we respect, and they respect us, and they have a lot of expectation for us to be great and to do great things. And my dad was like that. He was my hero, is my hero to this day. And I've always wanted to make him proud. And as I picked up the phone and called him, I said, hey, Dad, I need to come home. They need to send me home so that I can get better and I can get on medication and I can do what I need to do. And it was a audible pause on the telephone, which seemed like an eternity. But then he told me, he said, well, all right then. And did it come across like it was super excited for you, glad you're coming home? It seemed like it was a little bit disappointing. And again, I'm going to ask you this question to think about. When have you let somebody down? When have you broken an expectation, broken a promise that was placed upon you or that you made with someone else? And how did you feel? Did it make you feel broken? Did it make you feel like a failure? Because that's how I felt. Not being able to fulfill this expectation that was placed upon me. So the following day, I was sent home. My parents drove down from Salt Lake City to Provo, Utah to pick me up from the Missionary Training Center. And that's when my journey begins. And this last part of this devotional, as I said, this will be about half an hour, but this last part of the devotional, I'm just going to tell you about the difficult things that I went through as I came home and what I had to learn and who I had to become to push through. And so I came home March 31st, 2015. And the ensuing 18 months were the most difficult, soul-trying months of my entire life. I experienced debilitating depression, soul-crushing anxiety. I felt like I had failed my family. I felt like I had failed God. I felt like I had failed my brothers, my sisters, my parents, my community, my neighbors, my friends. I felt like I'd let everybody down because I wasn't able to fulfill the calling that was placed upon me. I wasn't able to make it to the end. I wasn't able to endure. And so, as I said, the next 18 months of my life were hell. I remember lying on my bedroom floor at night, shaking because I was experiencing a debilitating panic attack, not knowing if I would make it to the next morning or not. Having thoughts sweep across my mind of ending my life, committing suicide. And I remember one particular night, it was 3 to 4 months after I'd gotten home. I was seeing a therapist every other week. I was on different medication. And as anyone who's taken medication can attest, sometimes it does crazy things to your brain. Sometimes it makes you suicidal. Sometimes it makes you happy. Sometimes it makes you flatline where you don't feel anything at all. Sometimes it makes you feel great and then not so great. In this particular instance, it had a negative effect on me where one night I was just feeling my lowest of low. I felt like I had failed. I felt like my life was a failure. I felt like I wasn't going to be successful. I felt like I wasn't going to be anybody substantial. I wasn't going to make a difference. I wasn't going to make an impact. And so the thought came across my mind to end my life. And I kind of knelt beside my bed trying to think, hey, what should I do? How should I do this? And I had a thought to call a friend. This was a friend from college that I'd made about 6 months earlier at my first semester away at school. And I called him. I said, "Hey man, I'm really struggling." He said, "What's going on?" I said, "I don't want to be here anymore." I said, I don't want to live any longer. I said, "I want to go see my grandpa." My grandpa had passed away a couple years earlier. And he basically just talked me off of the ledge. He said, "You know what, Drew, you don't want to do that." He said, "There's a purpose here for you. That your life has meaning." And he rescued me from that dark place. Sorry. But he made it safe for me to feel the feelings that I felt. And I don't know what you're going through right now. I don't know if you're experiencing an addiction. I don't know if you're struggling with same-sex attraction, mental illness, discouragement, whether you've just lost a loved one or a job, whether someone in your family is struggling with illness. But I do know that you have people that love you and that you are needed here on this earth at this time to fulfill a purpose which is greater and grander than anything that you can imagine right now. And I don't want to tell you what to do. Everyone's life is different. Everyone's purpose is different. Everyone's mission is different. But I want you to know that you're needed and that you matter and that this world would not be a better place if you weren't in it. Your community, your family would not be better off if you left it. So stay with us another day. Stay with us another hour. Call a friend. You might think that they'll judge you, but they won't. They'll be there for you. They'll love you. Send me a text. I'll be there for you. I'll love you. Because I know what it's like to be at that dark place. So moving on from that experience, that was my life for 18 months. Not feeling good enough, not feeling like I mattered, not feeling like I could accomplish my mission on earth. But finally, as I had been taking medication for about a year and a half, as I had been going to therapy every other week for a year and a half, I started to be myself again. I started to experience a confidence that I'd never felt before in my entire life. And just one little side note for anyone who may be struggling with mental illness or knows someone who's struggling with it. For my entire life, I always thought that mental illness was mental weakness. That people who were mentally ill just needed to suck it up, just needed to try harder, just needed to pray more, just needed to get out of their own heads and stop thinking about themselves. How foolish. Because it wasn't until I went through it, and I'm still going through it. I'm still fighting mental illness every day of my life. I'm still on medication 5 years later. Take medication every day. I see a therapist, once every other week. Love it. Love therapy. Therapy is an amazing thing. If you've never tried it, go try it. I love therapy. But to anyone out there who needs to hear this today, mental illness is not mental weakness. And just because you can't see a cast on somebody's leg or somebody's arm or somebody's neck doesn't mean that they're without injury, mental, emotional, or physical. And this goes back to, what I talked about earlier and being kind. You never know what someone's going through. You can't physically see a lot of the time mental illness in somebody. The way they act out, it may portray it, but you can't see inside somebody's brain. You can't see inside somebody's soul. And so it's so important to create a culture in your religion, in your schools, in your community, in your families, where you can talk about this kind of stuff openly. Where you can tell someone that you love, "I'm really struggling right now." And they won't just tell you, "Oh, suck it up. Oh, you're fine. Oh, you're being selfish." No. We need to create a community. We need to create an environment. We need to create a culture as Christians, as brothers and sisters of love and of understanding and of empathy. And I'm glad that I went through what I went through and that I'm going through what I'm going through, because without it, I wouldn't have understood what a lot of other people go through. Over 800,000 people in the world commit suicide every year. And 8 million people die because of mentally ill related issues, whatever that may be. And so I'd love to just stress the point of, being there for somebody, being a listening ear, being kind, being empathetic, because that's all we can do. We can love. God is the judge. He's the final judge. He knows somebody's heart. He knows somebody's intentions. But it's up to us to love. It's up to us to be kind, to be charitable, to be generous. Not just to the people that are nice to us back, not just the people who are kind to us or that understand us, but to everybody. And that's so hard to do, but it's worth going for. So to kind of finish things off, as many of you have been watching this, I didn't return to my full-time mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. My mission ended right after the MTC, and I'm totally okay with that. To say that I went from wanting to end my life to being in a place where I'm happy and hopeful and optimistic and grateful and anticipatory for the future, and that I feel good enough now, is a testament to anybody viewing this, to anybody out there, that you are good enough too, that you're going to make it through your challenges, that you're going to make it through your heartaches, that regardless of what you're going through, you have people here that love you and care about you. So I want you to know, from somebody who's been in those deepest, darkest pits, from somebody who's wanted to end it all, from somebody who's been in a place where they couldn't even consider if they could make it to the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year. You can do it. You are enough. You're more than enough. And your future is bright and beautiful and glorious. Keep doing the right things. Pray to God. Ask Him to help you. Read His Word. It was written for you, in your circumstance. Ask for help. A lot of people don't ask for help because they think they'll be looked at differently or judged. But it's not on you if somebody judges you, it's on them. So ask for help, ask for guidance, and develop that relationship with God, with Jesus Christ. Because regardless of what you're going through, Jesus Christ knows. He understands. And you may say to yourself, oh, well, it wasn't written in the Bible that, Jesus was divorced, or it wasn't written in the Bible that Jesus had, depression or anxiety, or it wasn't written in the Bible that, Jesus experienced same-sex attraction. So how does He understand me? And let me be the first one to tell you, I don't know how He understands all of us going through what we're going through, but I know that He does. Because through His loving sacrifice, experiencing the pains, the afflictions, the infirmities, the sins of every human being who's ever lived on this earth and who ever will live on this earth, He gets it. He understands it. And I'm grateful for that. And I don't need to know how. I just need to know that He does. So to anyone out there who needs this message tonight, just know that you're loved. You're enough. You're going to do great things with your life. Hang on, hold on, trust on, and believe in yourself. Believe that things will be better for you in the future. I am 100% confident that as you continue to do the best you can, as you continue to grow and progress, that you'll not only discover your mission in life, you'll live it and you'll accomplish it. And everybody's missions are different. A lot of us tend to compare our missions to somebody else. Well, this person's a doctor, so I need to become a doctor. Or, this person was baptized, so I need to be baptized. Or this person, dated this girl, so I need to date this girl or guy or whatever. We just need to do what we believe is right for us through the help of God, through the help of those that love us. We need to do our best to be our best selves and live our missions. So my mission in life is to help you live and discover yours. And I'm grateful for every single one of you listening to this tonight. I hope that it made a difference. I hope that you feel like you can continue on a little bit better now. And as for me, I still experience rough days. Had a rough day yesterday. But we continue to get back up because, as cliche as this may sound, it's not the amount of times that we fall down. It's the amount of times that we get back up, keep going, keep progressing. And sometimes the best thing that we can do in our day is get out of bed. But hey, if that's the best you can do, all the power to you. Just do the best you can. God will accept your efforts. You're doing better than you think you are. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Brighten somebody's day this week with a text, with a phone call, with a letter, with a surprise gift. I love all of you. I don't even know all of you, but I love all of you. You're my brothers and sisters. And I'm grateful for this opportunity that I had tonight to share a little bit about my story and to hopefully help you along your path to happiness, health, and hope as you discover and live your mission. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.